But in the meantime, hey, Ricky, you know what's awesome?
What's that?
Disney movies!
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we had to get past the holidays because we had to do the Christmas movies, which I'm going to do this real quick aside because we watched Christmas Vacation a few days ago. Let the kids watch it with us because, you know, forgot how many bad words are in that movie, but
Oh, yeah.
but I digress. It is a National Lampoon's, and it's okay. But there's a couple of things I noticed. The first thing I notice is that pretty much, even though Clark is kind of the punching bag, like, oh, if he didn't take it so seriously, none of the bad stuff would happen. But really and truly, with the exception of not checking the light switch, everything that happens to Clark happens to Clark. It's really not his fault.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of sad because he's just like, all I want is a nice Christmas, and everybody around him's like not helping, complaining,
Yeah.
like setting his tree on fire. Like just it's poor Clark. But then the other thing, this is where you have to start figuring things out when kids are old enough to watch shows. And 2 days later, we're driving around, and my 10-year-old daughter, she's like, so I have a question. I'm like, what? She goes, who did you think was prettier, Clark's wife or the girl from the mall? And I was like, well, Beverly D'Angelo's awesome, obviously, like
Yeah.
hands down. She's like, I thought so too. So why was he like, why did he want her to take off her shirt in the pool? I'm like, get home and tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, we're about to have some conversations because I was like, I have no idea. I was like, maybe I don't remember what I said. I was like, maybe she lived next door and crawled over the fence. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, Ellen wins. You know, she's tops in my book here. So.
I've always been a Beverly D'Angelo fan myself too. So,
dude, she's awesome. So anyway, getting off of Christmas movies because it's New Year's now. I with like with the exception of Pixar movies, which could probably be a show in and of itself.
sure, yeah,
The Pixar did not start off as a Disney property.
right.
Pixar was its own studio. It was kind of an offshoot of Lucasfilm, I believe. It was a special effects division of Lucasfilm that kind of did their own sorts of stuff. And I could be wrong. But it wasn't its own independent company that was part of a bigger conglomerate that then, once they had a couple of hits under their belt, got bought by Disney and taken under the wing. So like movies like Toy Story and stuff were not originally Disney movies, although they are now. So we're not talking about the Pixar movies. We're just talking about the Disney animated movies that started in the 30s, and then they don't really do animated ones anymore, but
which is a shame.
And I think it would be a much easier. Yeah,
I think there's room for all of it. You know.
I totally agree. I think that the stuff that they did in order to animate, if you see some of those old Walt Disney walkthroughs where he's showing you how they did the special effects, and you're like entire rooms and boards and dollies and wheels and tracks and stuff, and just to get a single shot of, let's be real, a cartoon. Like, you know, it's amazing the kind of stuff that he did. But it would be an easier show to just talk about the stuff we didn't like, but we're not that kind of show. So I just top lined probably my few favorites, and some of these are favorites because they're favorites, not because like if my list is not the same as yours, it's not because I don't like yours at all. Because like I said, I could probably name 2 or 3 of their animated films that just didn't land for me, that I don't like. Yeah. But I don't like it for personal and stupid reasons. It doesn't make it not a good movie. Because Disney knocks it out of the park most of the time.
Absolutely.
So So, and to explain the shirt, I found this awesome shirt on TeePublic And
Yeah, I get it. That's what started this whole conversation. Because
started the whole
I saw you in that shirt, and
conversation.
I was like, I gotta have that shirt.
There's old Roger Miller, man.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so all right, so let's talk about our favorite animated Disney movies. And again, my list, I probably wrote down 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I wrote down 10, and there could probably be another 10 shoveled in there somewhere if you were to talk about it for a minute and be like, oh yeah, it should be there.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
but they've got like 100, so it's a pretty long list. So I'm gonna have to start in probably no particular order, but Dumbo
Oh yeah.
was amazing.
Yep.
And actually, probably before we start talking about the movies, you have to understand that where Rick and I came from, we didn't have video.
Right.
Like, this was most of our love for these movies came from the record and book things that your parents would get you for Christmas that
Yep.
had the songs from the movies on them.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
we didn't.
Until later on, they started showing it on HB and stuff many years later. But before that, if you didn't just happen to see it in the theater, that's all you got was the little, golden book records or whatever they were back in the day.
So you had the songs, and maybe even the songs that were sung by different people than were in the original movie. Maybe you'd have a
Yep.
different cast singing the song or doing the teleplay. But yeah, so we used to have these little things. It was like a little cassette with maybe a narrated story.
Yep.
That was like it was almost always some like really deep voiced guy that'd be like,
Yep.
And next Peter and the boys walked through the woods and came upon Captain Hook, and then it would just like be like ho 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 and a bottle of rum, da 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 da, and it's like that was the story. It's like, and then whenever you actually saw it on the screen, you knew enough of it to already have fallen in love. You were just in love with the entire thing.
Yeah.
But it was just like hitting home. It was hitting all those points that you already knew. The nostalgia buttons. They were
Yep.
doing that to us when we were children. So.
Absolutely. And it's amazing too, because I know with my age group, like I said, I'm a little older than you, but my age group, we grew up with, the old, like you're saying, the old Dumbo, Pinocchio, all the old, Disney films like that. But there's an infatuation with the Little Rascals, Laurel and Hardy. All these things were on TV when you would get home from school. Mm-hmm. So it became your norm, right? And it's amazing that Dumbo, I mean, what year was that? 40s,
early 50s, yeah.
Right. And for a kid in the 80s to still be drawn to something that's that old and go, wow, what a story. Mm-hmm. Tells you the power of the stuff that they were putting out at the time. I can't say it's really any different now. When you look at some of the more recent stuff and you go, wow, you know what? Disney still got it going on, man.
They do. And this is my little like anti-PC rant though, is that whenever you watch a Disney Plus or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, we have representations of smoking. It's like, you don't say.
Yeah.
Pink Elephant is one of the coolest songs that have ever been written. And if you've only ever seen it in the context of the movie, take it out. Like go to YouTube and play it, and then like go to a different screen and like realize that there were guys with instruments and microphones in a studio with lyrics written playing this song. Like this is a push play, or like it's like, okay, Anna 1, Anna 2, Anna 3, and a band played this song, and you listen to it and realizing all the time shifts and the vocal changes and the instruments and the random shifts and all of the stuff that but the fact that Dumbo, who's like an infant, got drunk on champagne poured into his bathwater, would probably
Yeah.
not be cleared by the censors at Disney these days. They wouldn't write
Right.
that song.
Yeah. That's true.
So, but there's an amazing piece of art, just separated from the film, separated from everything else. Just go listen to the Pink Elephant song and just be blown away, because it really will. It's
Right.
amazing. So, but
I really admire, uh, like you're talking about with Dumbo, which I haven't. We're going through this phase now of recreating all the classic animation and making them CGI, and I'm okay with it, I guess. But to go with Dumbo, I was always infatuated with Pinocchio and Snow White. Man, uh, Snow White is an amazing piece of film. When
mhm.
you look at what they did and the time frame that they did it in, the fact that Suspiria was heavily influenced by Snow White, and you can see it. You know, uh,
That's awesome.
it's such a powerful film, and even in animated form, how Disney could make things scary.
Dude,
It's
that that they're really, really, really good at it. The impact on, and like, we can, Snow White's certainly. It's funny because I've got like a master's degree in Disney because of my two little girls.
yeah,
So, like, if I would have had boys, I don't know that we would have watched some of these
sure,
princess movies as much, but I've watched them over and over and over again, and you start noticing details.
right,
It's kind of like we were talking last week about the deep listen, where you sit, it's like, okay, it's the 49th time I'm kind of scrolling on my phone, and you glance up and you're like, it never occurred to me that, you know, and I posted on Facebook sometime, and somebody was like, oh my God, you're right. It's like,
yeah,
whenever it comes down to it, like the evil princess, the evil queen, I'm sorry, when
yeah,
she's like, hey, take a bite of this and your true love will appear. Snow White takes a bite, she passes out, and the next thing she sees is him kissing her.
yeah,
Like, as far as things go, the evil queen was legit. She's like, here's the apple, take a bite, and your life is going to change.
yeah,
It's like, if you have those moments to stop and just think about and I don't know if that was an intended consequence. It was just the way the story ran. It also frustrates the hell out of me that she's like singing the song like, I'm waiting for my prince to come, and the prince literally rides up on her and it's like, hey, what's up? And she runs away. Like, it seemed like the universe is trying to tell you something here, woman. It's like,
just give me a sign, any sign.
yeah, exactly. So, but no, the animation, the music montage of the dwarves trying to wash their, like, clean in the
Yep, yep,
it's
yeah. It is a little herky jerky because of the time frame of when they did this, but the fact of Technicolor, this is early stages of anything being in color, really, when you're getting down to it. Uh, yeah, man, it's what makes Disney so special. I can't think of a better example, really, throughout all the years than Snow White, and it's just because of it's got everything in it.
I think
It's just
too that's why Disney is the behemoth that it is. Like, it's the cultural phenomenon.
yeah,
You can take the money out of it and just look at, like, the influence that it has. But then
yeah,
all of the money, their ability to just kind of take over the world, and it's because of that attention to detail. It's that, like, you know, say what you want, like, crack the whip and be like, no, you're just going to draw that frame again to get it right.
right, right,
Like,
yeah,
that attention to detail in the 30s
yeah,
made them
yeah,
who they are now. Because while we are some Looney Tunes loving dudes,
yeah,
like, the quality control on Looney Tunes versus Disney animated movies are, like,
yeah,
not the
yeah.
same. They're fun, they're awesome, but
Yeah, it's different category.
completely. And yeah, the
It's like
snow.
it's like one of us getting on stage with Steve Vai.
Right, like,
It's just like, yeah, whatever.
well, the Karate Kid beat him, so he barely had any training either. So
Oh, now that's a show into itself right there. The crossroads action. Oh, what's your next one, man? What you got?
um, all and again, these are really kind of in no order, but the Jungle Book
Oh yeah,
was I remember pretty much every single one of those songs. And again, being just a little kid, and a guy, the actor whose name escapes me, I should have written it down. But the guy who plays Baloo, who also played Little John, he was one of the main Disney voice actors in the 70s. But yeah, the Jungle Book was just awesome. And then to like go into their kind of behind the scenes, and they had all these actors like sitting in rooms with lions and tigers and bears and drawing them, like rapid fire drawing them, just like sketch and sketch and sketch, and just trying to get their movements proper. Again, the attention to detail, and of course, the story's amazing. Like, had you certainly scared of tigers, Shere
oh
Khan
yeah,
Shere Khan's worse than Darth Vader, like he's
yeah.
mean, and he's very the coming soon of Scar eventually. But
Right,
Shere
right.
Khan and Scar are
Yep.
they're cut from the same
There's
cloth.
I totally agree. Yeah,
And
and that's something I have to bring up too, because that's where, and I've said it about the recent Star Wars movies, and I kind of feel that way about the newest Wonder Woman movie. It's when the bad guys aren't bad enough, it's really hard to care what's going
mm-hmm,
to happen. I remember the James Bond film. I was really into Pierce Brosnan being James Bond when he first got it. I thought GoldenEye was great. And then that next one came out. Was it Tomorrow Never Dies or whatever it
that
was?
was it. Yeah, I was trying to think of the name.
And I was just like, this is your bad guy, a guy that manipulates the media? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really?
No, they have to be, and that's the whole exploration of archetypes.
Yeah,
It's like, and this is to probably get you God and Satan, light and dark.
right.
You can't have good without and
Yep,
it's thermodynamic, or listen, not thermo that mass and energy, like equal and opposite reaction. It's like
right.
propulsion goes this way, whatever else it goes that way. And if this isn't this, then this doesn't really land.
It doesn't
And
work.
I
And
think you're right.
that's why the evil queen is evil. That's the
Yes.
reason Scar is Scar. And I think we've kind of, it's a formula that still works because it makes you care about the characters that they're doing stuff to.
I honestly think that the problem with this anti-hero slash really does land with Darth Vader, because Darth Vader was so evil and scary,
Yeah,
but he was on a redemption arc.
yeah,
Like
yeah. You felt sympathy for him at the end.
Luke was not out to kill him. Luke
Right,
was out to try to save him, while Darth
right.
was out to kill Luke. Like he didn't care. He's my son, but he tells the Emperor like he'll join us or die. So like
Yeah,
I'm evil. Luke's got other plans, and in the end, Luke wins because he did manage to pull him back from the dark side for just that
right.
slight moment. He was able to flip the switch. That turned like then that means every bad guy, you should see it from their perspective at this point. Like he's not really
Yeah,
bad; he's just misunderstood, and it's like no, there's some really bad guys out there. Like there are. And like you
yeah,
say, the evil queen from Snow White, she's not nice.
yeah,
Shere Khan's a tiger. He's a predator.
yeah.
Whether or not like he could have the best interest, the best interest of himself at heart, he's gonna like kill you and drag you home and feed his cubs, you're still got your throat ripped out, bro, because he's a tiger and you're a monkey. Like, it's you can sympathize all you want. They're still not nice. They're not cool to have around.
Right.
And you know.
And that's always been part of that issue with that. Now, there are exceptions. I mean, I get it. You know, sometimes you need the bumbling idiot bad guy, right?
Of course.
Which we'll talk about in another movie we'll talk about here in a minute. But you know, when I think about your shirt, when I think about Robin Hood, the animated one, you think about the king, who's the bad guy, but you still kind of like it, you know? You know? So there's that kind of thing too, you know?
We can certainly talk about Robin Hood, because Robin Hood is one of those that it's funny that the only Robin Hood that I ever knew was Disney Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Errol Flynn was
it's my dad's.
Was gone. He's over the shoulder. Like, that was an old movie.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize that the Errol Flynn Robin Hood existed until the Goonies, when they're watching it with Sloth, when they're watching it on TV, and like he hits the sail with the knife and slides down and stuff. I'm like, Dad, what is this? He's like, oh, that's Errol Flynn. And so when we watched the old, that was a long time back.
Yeah.
You know, and we're talking in the 80s, and Robin Hood came out in 73. Disney Robin Hood. So, I mean, it was already old by the time I was enjoying it. Like, I was 8 or 9 years old, 7, 8 years.
The Errol Flynn one came out in what, 50s?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and of course that's my dad, when he thinks of Robin Hood, it's Errol Flynn, you know, because that's what he grew up on.
And Errol Flynn's awesome.
Oh yeah,
but
when he comes in and slams that deer down on the table, but that's something else. That's
but I didn't even know that existed. For me, Robin Hood was the fox.
Yeah,
like that was him. And Prince John was bad. Like, he was bumbling, he was weak and crappy. But at the same time, all of that suffering was his fault.
Use of power, you know. It's that age-old story of, even when he's not a sinister bad guy, it's the fact of he could care less as long as he gets what he wants, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm the same way, of course, and that's what led to even having this show, was because of that shirt and both of our love for Robin Hood, because that was the first one I ever saw. That's the first Disney movie, possibly the first movie I ever saw in a theater, was Robin Hood. It's I get real confused there. There's Robin Hood and there's Enter the Dragon. Or one of those is my first movie.
Either one of those is.
Yeah, I mean,
what you gonna do? Like, man.
But yeah, I've always loved this version of Robin Hood. It's my favorite Disney film, and it's because of when I saw it and growing up and the impact that it had.
You know, it's hard for me to say the I'm gonna say, you know, like Robin Hood, you said favorite, and you had a second favorite. I'm just gonna keep going through the list here, because there's so much. Like Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is one, whenever I was a kid, I didn't really like that much because it was weird and it didn't seem to go anywhere. But my daughters absolutely love it. And of course, you know, I went through that period in the 90s where there was kind of a little resurgence of love for Lewis Carroll and the whole weirdness and the Cheshire Cat and everybody getting tattoos. So you had that moment of like, okay, but then still it's weird. Like, it's intentionally weird, and it's a child's mind, and it's supposed to be strange. But the characters and the way that they're rendered, and a lot of them, they're classic characters, but they're only on screen for like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Like Tweedledum and Tweedledee, they're like boing, 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 gone. Yeah. And you see them briefly at the end, and then and the impact of some of the characters, like that dog that's like
Yeah.
brushing the trail off with his nose and his tail is like,
Yeah.
just stuff like that. It's just in your head forever. You're never gonna get rid of that. It's always there.
And that's what it was. It was giving you something visually that you walk away with really kind of going, what did I just watch? And you're not going to walk away and go, I mean, it stays with you because you're still trying to put it all together in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the 90s resurgence of it was because of, well, I mean, look at what everybody was into at the time, right? So it just kind of fit with sitting around and smoking some doobies and watching some Alice in Wonderland. And, so you kind of get that.
I was going to attribute it to a certain Tom Petty video.
Well, that too.
Like, to me, that was really, I mean, because Alice in Wonderland existed. It was a Disney movie.
Yeah.
And then that Tom Petty video came out where, like, he's the Mad Hatter and, like, the girls run around and then, like, at the end, they're eating her as cake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, for me, the person who has to know what is behind this. Is this a scene in the book? Where did this come from? Like, I must get to the bottom of this, like Scooby-Doo style. And so then I went on right down a rabbit hole, literally. Like,
wow.
I'm gonna buy the book. I'm gonna read the book. I'm gonna see what's up with this. And yeah, there's not a scene in the book where Tom Petty eats a cake that's made out of Alice. But
well, and I bet it doesn't have those two hot chicks running around in the black and white checkered outfits either that are singing the background vocals. Man, I was right at the point of puberty at that point. I was like, holy smokes! Look at that checkered chick.
Dude, one of the first costumes when Meg and I started dating for Halloween costume, we went as together. It was Hatter and Alice, and she ordered her costume online, I think, or she bought it, but it was just it was somewhere between perfectly sized and just a little bit too tight. So it was awesome. I found this crazy, like, baby blue polyester suit at Goodwill that was like one size too small. So my shirt sleeves hung out, but like they hung up to right here. And I found this old mouse, this rubber rat, and I sewed its feet to my shoulder. So I had the dormouse on my shoulder. And then check this out. I'll send you the picture. I had this alarm clock hung on a watch chain into my pocket with the big old hat and everything. The hot girl in the just too tight Alice in Wonderland dress. Yeah, it was a good day. Hence, Alice in Wonderland on my top. Bunch of the things you keep. I'm like, oh crap, there it is right there on my window.
Absolutely.
So what's next for you, man?
I'm gonna bring out the oddball, which was the beginning of the marriage of animated. Well, I say the beginning, but the whole movie was combining animated with live action. It's Pete's Dragon, man.
Dude.
I've always got a soft spot for the original Pete's Dragon. He's big, he's goofy. I don't know, man. It's not a good movie. It's really not a good movie.
It's weird, but the whole tavern dance scene where they're splashing beer all over each other.
Right. But there's something about it that I've always just loved. And again, it's probably just the fact of because, I'm growing up and I'm close to the age of this kid and, just, his home life story, right? Because he's being raised by Shelley Winters and her crazy brothers. And, they're all, instead of rough and toothless, they're tough and ruthless, or rough and toothless, they're Tough and Roof or Rough and Toothless. Yeah. Get it right. Yeah. All these are gonna kind of impact you by what you relate to, right? So this is the young boy in a bad family life type situation, and his imaginary friend is what gets him through it. But is he imaginary? Who knows?
You don't find out to the end.
Yeah. So that was very relatable to me. My folks split when I was like 8 or so. So going through some of the home life stuff that we lived in from that point on till my mom remarried was rough. So I identified with some of this stuff,
Certainly imagine so.
So yeah,
wow.
I've always liked that one. It's got the hokey stuff in it where they're going to break out into song from time to time, and I'm not really a fan of that. But hey, it works in some Disney stuff, some stuff it doesn't. So.
All right. So you mentioned we left off on Pete's Dragon. Have you seen the remake of Pete's Dragon?
I did. Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
It was okay.
I thought it was cute. I mean, I think they did probably the best they could with what they had, because it's like you say, the original movie, while it had it had its serious undertones, it was still a Disney lighthearted, Mickey Rooney romp. Yeah. It's like, and they had a they had a cartoon dragon and yada yada yada, but the undertones that they had to hit, it's like he lived in the forest and he was just like a wolf child, and they found him and they're like, oh my God, you're not dead and you're friends with a dragon.
Yeah, I thought it was an okay twist, and that may be where we lead with all this is, we get down to the re-imaging of all these that they're doing more recently, and for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with them.
I was gonna say, but dude, they had Billy Butcher in there. That's like, it's like it was an okay movie, and then you put Carl Urban in there, and like, okay, like kick it up a notch or two, because that dude's just badass.
It was just the other night we actually watched the new version of Mulan.
Okay.
And I loved it. It. I did. I absolutely loved it, because it took out the part for me that was hokey, which is the songs.
The songs and the dragon.
Yeah, so it's like, this is where Eddie Murphy pops in. But I'll tell you what, I mean, because you got, Donnie Yen, you got Jet Li, you got all these people in this movie, Jason Scott Lee.
Wow.
So, the star power is there. It's shot beautifully. It's just they just don't break out in the song, and for me, that's a win. But it's hard to say that when you're talking about Disney, because that is such a part of Disney, But I think for re-imaging them and making them live action, you don't need the songs.
That's true. We were talking about Jungle Book and different, like I've seen live action Jungle Books, and it's like, okay, well, that's not as fun because you don't have the songs.
Yeah.
But it's a different sort of situation whenever you've got a bunch of orangutans singing about, with Louis Prima. It's like, again, like with the pink elephants. Whenever you have a virtuoso, not a virtuoso, but a group of virtuosos in a room, basically creating lightning in a bottle, and then you have those guys on staff. So it's like, okay, we need something awesome, and it's like, okay, well, here we are. We'll make something awesome for you. Versus,
you have to remember where all this came from, because you're coming from vaudeville, right? All these movies and everything, before there was movies, there was vaudeville, which is a combination of comedy acts coming out and singing, dancing girls, I mean, you were getting hit with everything. That's the reason the Marx Brothers movies are like they are, right? You get 20 minutes worth of movie, and then you get 15 minutes worth of songs and dancing, because that's the world that all this stuff comes from. Disney's no exception. They just did it on a level to entertain kids, but keep parents entertained as well. So I think as time has gone on, we have kind of gotten away from that. A musical is a musical, but I think you don't have to have that like we used to. It wasn't a part of just the standard.
I was gonna say, because I'm not a fan of musicals. Like, I'll forgive it for
I hate them.
I'll forgive it for old Disney.
Yeah,
but like, even
Disney's
when
my only exception. Yeah.
like whenever what's the one with Wolverine that he's playing?
Yeah, The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman. That is a really good movie.
It's good.
And there are even certain songs where it draws you in, and you're like, okay, well, this has that Disney-esque edge where you kind of didn't notice that they were in a song. You were just kind of going along with the story. Then every now and then it just kind of hits you with like, it's like, well, I'm having a bad day. It's like, well, what are you going to do now? It's like, I'm going to have a song about a haircut. Do, do, do. And you're just like,
yeah, that's my problem, man. It's like,
I don't.
I'm sorry about your mom. Well, that stuff just kills me, man. I'm just, no.
Dude, that drives me absolutely bonkers. And I think that's why, like, I'm such a tortured soul. Like, I'm such a heavy metalhead, but I'm also such a goth and stuff. It's because my first love is Michelle Pfeiffer in Grease 2. I mean, come on.
Okay. Yeah.
Except for, I don't think she did a whole lot of singing. She did some hot stepping and some dancing, but she didn't do, like...
Who's that guy?
It's like, but then again, it didn't matter. She could just been there, and you're just like, I just want you to take me home with you. I just want
there's exceptions to it, right? Yeah, but because when Danny and I did the pirate movie, it's Christy McNichol and...
Dude, I loved that movie. I loved that movie when I was a kid. Dude, but I was like 6. There's no 6-year-old that you can Siskel and Ebert out a level of quality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this movie was not good because of all these reasons. I mean, I'm Gene Siskel. I wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I wrote a porn film, but I'm telling you about what you should like and not like. And it's like, but I'm 6. and there's guys with swords and and dream sequences. Like, it's all good.
And you got, the hottest Christy McNichol's ever looked, and she's singing a song called Pumping and Blowing. So how do you go wrong with that? Anyways, Disney.
Disney, yeah. Hey. All right. What's next on my list? Well, there's always Pinocchio. Pinocchio's horrifying.
Pinocchio, it is, man.
Dude, that's a horror movie. Like, straight up, he's like, like, hey, Dad, can I go outside and play? No, Pinocchio. Well, I'm gonna go do it anyway. Nope. And then just like, like, well, life sucks, and here I am in the ocean. Well, just screw it. I'm gonna get eaten by a whale. And I'm like, oh, hey, there's Dad. Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
How'd you get in here?
Yeah, I've always loved Pinocchio as well, and it is very dark.
It's pretty rough, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, it will put... There's certain things about the movies, like, again, whether you like the songs, whether you don't like the songs, there was something primal that punched you hearing Ultron sing the "I Got No Strings to Tie Me Down" song in Avengers, because they had the rights, because Disney had just bought Marvel.
Right.
And he's just like, he's not even singing it. He's just kind of like monotoning it in the proper key.
Right.
But it was like, oh, that's a punch in the gut right there. Like,
Yeah.
He's alive. He's dangerous, and which, have you seen the previews for the new Pinocchio that's coming out?
No,
The
I
the,
haven't.
the trailer?
Uh,
Scott sent it to me through Scary Dad, being like, "Hey, sometimes they try to make a normal movie and it's more terrifying than." But remember, like 5 or 10 years ago, there's a French dude that won an Academy Award for a movie called like Life is Beautiful, and
yep.
he was like a very smiley looking, happy go lucky guy sort of guy, Roberto Bellini or something like that.
Hmm.
He's got a Pinocchio movie that comes out that
Wow.
is it on its surface looks terrifying, but then as the trailer plays out, it looks awesome. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely, like, this dude's gonna win some awards for this. I'm gonna watch it. It's amazing. Yeah, Pinocchio's that, and I think that's like one of the secrets for Disney is because if you look at like the Lion King, for example, isn't that more or less Macbeth without Lady
Yes.
Macbeth?
Yeah.
You know,
Uh, all these
Pinocchio.
stories are pulling from the
They're
old
they're 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 they're,
Shakespeare.
they're
Yep.
old stories that have
Yep.
just they resonate. So you just like
Yep.
the you can retell it as many times as you need to. You can interchange characters and genders and stuff, but as long as
Hmm.
the story is intact, the
Right.
story is impactful. And yeah, that's so like Pinocchio. Yeah, here I am now. I'm like, oh, I want to go see this creepy ass movie and probably bring my kids because it, it looks awesome. Um, The Fox and the Hound was
Oh
one that
yeah.
was like when I was a kid was just one that um it was also the first movie that didn't end happily, really.
Hmm.
Like they didn't
Right.
become friends again. They didn't live happily ever after.
Right.
They just accepted their lot in life. They're sort of like you're a fox and I'm a hound and
Well,
you
I
know.
mean, you can go back even beyond the animated stuff. Look at freaking Old Yeller, man.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, that's the way you end a movie. Or where the red fern grows. I mean, it's just like, what the heck, Disney?
Or the black hole or any of
Oh, the
those.
black hole, man.
Okay, but even the
Yeah.
black, like have you've seen Return to Oz, haven't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My poor like 8 or 9 year old self, because like Christmas time, we talked about it on the Christmas movies thing. Like I was taken to see Return of the Jedi. Probably, like I was 7. Yeah, 7 when Return of the Jedi. I was taken to see Gremlins. Oh, hey, there's one. There's one for you. Here's a Christmas movie made and marketed for children in which one of the main characters explains precisely and in horrifying detail why she doesn't believe in Santa Claus, which is just, I mean, that is the most devastating story ever. Like, they should have not put that in a movie, period, much less a movie marketed for children at Christmas time. Jesus, what are you trying to do to these children, Steven Spielberg?
Yeah.
I saw lots of stuff, but Return to Oz, with my extraordinarily religious grandparents,
Wow.
went to go visit them, and they're like, "Well, there's a new Wizard of Oz movie. Like, there's all this other like RoboCop 2 or whatever else was out that maybe even RoboCop 1, like that we're not gonna get them to let us go watch." It's like, oh, here's a Christmas movie. Like I saw the Santa Claus the movie. We saw
Yeah.
that with my grandparents, right?
Huh.
And it was like the following year we went and saw Return to Oz. And it's still probably to this day one of the scariest movies I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah. It is. It's like Alice in Wonderland, but if Tim Burton did it and put it in Oz.
Well, if Tim Burton did it with like Rob Zombie, because it's also not it's extraordinary. It's not nice.
No,
Like they
it's
don't they
not.
don't like they don't pull punches. They don't cut away from stuff. Like that woman has heads.
Yeah.
Like, she's just got a bunch of heads that are, if they're not on her head where she's the personality, they're just
Yeah.
screaming in eternal torment. And then they zoom in and show you how horrible, it's just, they like Dorothy Gale. She survived the Wicked Witch of the West, so then she gets like
Yeah.
shock
It's
treatment.
crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
oh God.
It's crazy, man.
Like, okay, this is what children want to see. Return to Oz. You're thinking like they want to see more lollipops in Yellow Brick Road, and like like
Yeah. Very.
Glenda needs you to go back to the Emerald City and pick up the horse of a different color and ride him home. Oh no, you get the Wheelers.
The Wheelers.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Sucks.
It's a trip, man.
So yeah, not on my top list of best Disney movies. It's like certainly like thankful for the experience. Now it's Fairuza Balk too, dude. Like, she was a little girl. And there's no wonder
yeah.
she went crazy in the craft.
Yeah, I agree. I do love me some Black Hole though, man. I that's when I saw in the theater growing up. Of course, that's right off the cuff of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. It's kind of boring, but I didn't care.
It's strange.
Oh, that ending is still one of the big, WTFs ever.
It's kind of like Event Horizon.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh,
it's a good analogy, yeah.
Like literally, we found a ship just sitting outside of the spot where she disappeared, so let's go explore it.
Yeah.
And
not a good idea.
Why don't we just like Kyle? This wasn't Kyle Reese. It was same guy. It's like we just need to go and nuke it from orbit. Just send some torpedoes. What's his name?
Yeah.
Oh well. It's not Hudson. It's Hudson was anyway. We'll figure it out.
It's not a Disney film. Who cares?
Yeah, you guys will get mad at us for not remembering the name of. It's not a Disney film. All right, I asked my wife before we went on because she's, of course, with my daughters and everything. She said that if she had to guess, a number one for her would be either The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast, because she was that age. She was like 7, 8, 9 years old. And I have to say that those are two really, really well-made movies. Beauty and the Beast was the first one to ever use CGI. So like those ballroom scenes and stuff. And it's kind of interesting to me how you went from like Pete's Dragon and Mary Poppins, where they were taking real, shot scenes and then drawing in animation into them, and then flipping that around and being like, okay, well, now we have animation that we're going to build CGI around. And it was just in its infancy, but almost like with Terminator 2 and CGI being never as good as it will ever be as it was in that movie. Like, cartoon CGI will never be as good as it was in Beauty and the Beast to me.
Yeah.
Because they
and
didn't.
Disney. I was just gonna say, and to me, in that time frame is really when Disney was hitting their stride, man. I mean, it didn't matter. It seemed like it didn't matter what it was; they were just knocking it out of the park. From Lion King through all those other movies that followed, they're all top notch. Just amazing pieces of work, and The Little Mermaid as well, Beauty and the Beast. To me, that whole era right there is just some of their best stuff.
I'm not sure, but I think The Little Mermaid might be the last movie that was completely hand drawn. That was not didn't have, because I think Beauty and the Beast was their next one, and that had the CG, and then from then on, it's always been a mixture.
Right.
again, as guys, we're like 80s dudes, like BMX and skateboards and ride or die and, heavy metal and guitars and the Little Mermaid.
Right.
I mean, the animation in that is really good.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and that's definitely my daughter's favorites because that's when she was growing up.
How
So
old's your
yeah,
daughter?
she
I
is.
don't like within a decade, like 30s, 20s,
Yeah,
obviously.
she's 30.
Okay.
So so those movies was when she was at that age to where everything was super influential. Uh, it started with Lion King for her, which is probably my second or third favorite Disney film. So I think it's amazing. But it started with that one with her, and it turned into Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. So I mean, we saw those many times. Mulan, when Mulan came out, but she was big into that one too. So
Yeah, my daughters have always been real big, well, pretty much Belle and Ariel.
yeah,
Because I had little sisters too, so even growing up, like I couldn't help but stop and watch, when
yeah.
like Sleeping Beauty was on,
Mm-hmm.
and especially like, dude, I've always thought Maleficent was awesome. It's like you're not gonna get a whole lot cooler than, which I don't know, it's kind of like that goth side of me too. It's like the Michelle Pfeiffer. It's like, Angelina Jolie is cute, but you should throw some Michelle Pfeiffer up in that like leather horns outfit. see what happens. But yeah, dude, my favorite Disney movie I think of all time would have to be Peter Pan.
Your Pan's awesome.
For me, it checks all the boxes. Yes, it has the songs, but they're campfire songs.
Right.
Like you're not you're not artificially taken into some strange world where everything's serious and dire, and then suddenly somebody's singing a romantic "Let Me Out of Here" song. The following the leader, it's kind of, it's organic and it's natural, right. And like those sorts of things, and being a little kid in the 80s and kind of being a Boy Scout and kind of on that cusp somewhere between the 50s mentality and the 80s reality of being a little kid. It's like, yep. Peter Pan just struck all of the notes with me.
Sure.
And I think it's affected my life because, I think of myself like, I am kind of a Peter Pan sort of figure. It's like, I just won't ever grow up. Like I'm very responsible. I take care of my business. I am a grown up, but like, as soon as my children are like, hey, it's a new toy, I'm like, well, let me see it because I want to play too. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, so there's a place in my heart that's just so close for Peter Pan and Wendy and Neverland, and never having to grow up and never having to, you just don't like, like, oh, eventually if we can play all of our cards right, maybe we can retire. Well, what do you want to do to retire? I don't know, just like find that little lagoon by the volcano and just wander around through the woods and be left alone. Like, have campfires every night and tell stories. I don't know. That's to me sounds like a pretty good life. That's but yeah, dude, like that's my once yes. We mentioned it the other day, and I started writing stuff down. It's like I couldn't dethrone Peter Pan. Like it wouldn't fall out of the slot. It's like, well, there's this one. Yeah, but it's not Peter Pan.
And again, it's going to vary by the age you were and what you saw, because it was the new thing and you latched onto it. It became a part of who you are. And well, I think that's what's
Peter Pan came out in the 50s.
Yeah, it's older.
Yeah.
But it didn't change the fact. It's just like I said with Snow White. To me, there's just something magical about it. Same thing with Peter Pan. I mean, even though they are that old.
Yeah.
That they still reach you with them with that message, and I don't know, they're timeless.
I think again that's he's making it in the 50s. Peter Pan came out in the late 1800s, and
Yeah.
it's it is an important story because of growing up and growing old and not losing that spark of what makes you a kid. And
Yeah.
you know I you can get extremely serious about what makes Peter Pan so fun and not serious. But yeah, for me, I think that's always going to be my favorite, unless they really just ramp it up with something.
Well, the beauty of it too is exactly what we're talking about, and I can think of even an example for me, because for my birthday, my wife got me one of the old Evil Knievels. Right, you put him on the platform, you wind him up, and I told my dad about it, and his eyes lit up. He was like, "You know what?" He said, "I think I played with yours more than you did." So I can even see there's a little bit of excitement of he wished he could get one now too, to play with it, because it's that thing, man. You never grow up.
There, I've got a never thought it. I was my daughter's age. I was 10 years old or something for Christmas. I got a Nash. It's a big old skateboard. It's like the fishtails type skateboard. It's a Nash
Yeah.
red line, and it's a cruiser skateboard. Like you didn't do a whole lot. Like
Yeah.
you could do a 360 if you could keep your balance. You could just keep spinning for days because didn't take much talent. It just took a little center of gravity.
Yeah.
But my uncle showed up, and my uncle was a surfer, and he's just like, hey, I want to do something. So he goes and drills a hole in the nose of my skateboard, and then attaches his sail for his sail surfing. He attaches the sail to the board. And I'll never forget, because I'm worried about my skateboard. Because I'm like, you mofos are drilling holes in my skateboard. He goes out in the street, sets up this board, like picks it up. The wind catches him and just like slams him right into the neighbor's house. It was awesome. So then my dad, not to be outdone, is like, well, let me try that. So my dad at the time is probably in his like middle 30s. My uncle's like in his early 20s. My dad's like, let me try that. So he picks it up, and credit to him, my uncle just like smacked. Dad picks it up, and the wind catches him. He rides it down the street. Only he's like got bearings sparking. He's moving so fast whenever he smacks into the neighbor's house, just like several houses further up. But yeah, neither one of them was ever going to grow up, and I love them for it because But I've got that skateboard hanging in my garage, literally on a peg through the hole that they drilled in the nose of my board, because it's I don't ride it because my knees are messed up, but like,
man,
yep,
that's cool.
I think we're hitting the end, my friend. I'm starting to get
before we stop,
finish
because we got a ton here that I know we're leaving some favorites out, probably Aristocats, all those other ones, but I want to just do a shout out to the Disney short films too, or the short animated stuff, because all the ones where the bears are out in not the resort, but out in the forest with the ranger, and he's making them pick up the trash and all that stuff. Man, I loved all those little short 10, 15-minute, Donald Duck shooting pool, all the goofy stuff, man. I love me some Goofy.
The Donald Duck building the model in Chippendale, like trying to take the boat out on the river, like all the acorns. Dude, yeah, you're right. All
those
the
are great.
They're
great.
So good. Yeah. And like I always like one of those things where like not really knowing when you're a child and like eventually you'll grow up, like the inside of Donald's model boat has so many amenities for Chip and Dale that they're like, this is awesome. Like, let's steal this boat and ride. I'm like, I want one of those boats, but I could never be that small because I'm not a chipmunk, right? Like, this is the way the mind of a child works. Like, but why would he build all that stuff in there if he can't play with it? Like, he's got a refrigerator and like a photo on the wall, like all the kind of like model building. Now my grandfather, who's like in his 90s, like builds ship models and puts all that stuff in there. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I get it. Yeah.
What about the cartoon too that was the Tall Tales, the Legends, right? Paul Bunyan, Casey Jones. I mean, I grew up watching that Paul Bunyan one so many times with Babe the Blue Ox, and he's going against the guy that's got the big chainsaw. And like, hey, Paul Bunyan. It's like, oh man, I love that.
The steel driving man, John Henry, where he's like hitting
John Henry.
Dunk, 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 dunk.
Yeah.
The well, there's the Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is the
great,
just like absolutely amazing. It was funny because like that's one that I say we have to watch at Christmas time. My kids are like, whatever. And Juliet was like, hey, let's watch this Christmas Carol. And Autumn's like, this sucks. Put on the Disney one. This is not good. This is boring. I don't like it. So yeah, I mean, there's the Tales of Ichabod. I mean, the Sleepy Hollow story.
Man, scary stuff, man.
It's good. It's
Fantasia.
I've watched that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
in that same Alice in Wonderland sort of mindset, but
yeah.
Well, with the same girl, like you find your Alice, you're all right.
Yeah. There's just so much, man, and fitting it into one show, and like I said, there's tons of stuff. 101 Dalmatians. So we're leaving out all these classics. And
like I said, we just needed a top line of few because my favorites are again, Robin Hood and Peter Pan, and everybody's got their favorites, and everybody's got those ones that just matter, whether you saw them in the theater or whether you saw them on VHS.
Yeah.
Whether they came out 2 weeks ago and we didn't touch it because Pixar. That's
a whole different thing.
But yeah, man, tell us your favorite Disney movies. Tell us what you liked. I mean, I'd say tell us what you didn't like, but there's really only one Disney movie that I'm not a fan of, and that's Aristocats. And I didn't like it because Disney was accused of recycling.
They did.
Yeah, but it's very obvious. Like you just see like you could see like the pencil marks and like the X's and like the editor's notes in the animation on the finished print, and you're just like, oh come on. Plus, fact, I'm not a big fan of cats, but what you gonna do? But yeah, dude, guys, hop on the Facebook forum. Hop up. Don't do it like a cat and hawk anything up. Hop up on the Instagram. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't. And we probably won't change it, but you can certainly tell us. And
all right.
We'll see you next week.